He came to the mountains to forget war, to find peace in silence. But peace didn't come easy. Not when a blizzard buried a secret at his door, a dying cop, a wounded canine, and a message carved in ice. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. Which country are you seeing this video in? Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and show your love for these true hero stories. This is the end for those who don't listen. What Jax Thorne didn't know was that the war he escaped had just found him again. The storm rolled down from the Rockies like a living thing, swallowing Silver Ridge in white silence. Jax Thorne, the former Navy SEAL, had come here to escape noise, not just from war, but from himself. His cabin stood alone among the pines, a refuge built of wood, scars, and memory. But peace was fragile. That night, the wind carried more than snow. It carried a cry. Jax froze mid-step. His instincts, the kind that never retired, stirred like coiled wire. He grabbed his flashlight, scanning the snowdrifts beyond his porch. The beam caught something half-buried. 2 figures, motionless in the storm. He moved fast. The first was a woman, pale, uniform torn, wrists bound tight with rope. The second, a German shepherd, its body twisted in pain, still trying to shield her even unconscious. The sight cut straight through his chest. A note, pinned to a nearby tree, flapped in the wind. This is the end for those who don't listen. Jax's hands tightened. The knots were military. The message wasn't random. His vacation was over. He freed the dog first, murmuring softly, "Easy boy, I've got you." Then the woman. Her pulse fluttered weakly. He carried them through the storm, every step a battle against the cold, and brought them into the cabin's warmth. A soldier saving 2 strangers he somehow already felt responsible for. Outside, the blizzard howled. Inside, he locked the door and loaded his shotgun. Peace had found its enemy. Hours later, the fire cracked and hissed as he worked. The woman, early 30s, face bruised and cold as marble, was alive but fading. He set her shoulder, wrapped her wounds, and fought to bring colour back to her lips. The dog's flank was torn, bullet grazed. Still, it refused to stop breathing. A heavy knock jolted the silence. Jax reached for the shotgun. "Relax," a voice called from outside. "It's Brenna Lockatch, Ranger Service." He opened the door to find her half buried in snow. Sharp eyes, auburn braid, and the kind of steadiness only mountain people carried. Inside, one glance told her everything. "You found them like this. They were left to die," Jax said. Brenna didn't hesitate. "I've got supplies in my truck. Sutures, meds. Keep her breathing. I'll handle the dog." She vanished into the storm and came back 20 minutes later, half frozen but determined. Together they worked, a soldier and a ranger against the darkness. Hours later, as dawn hinted through the snow, the woman stirred. Her eyes opened in panic. She saw strangers, firelight, and her partner by the hearth. "Titan," she rasped, voice breaking. The dog lifted his head weakly, tail thumping once. Brenna smiled softly. "You're safe, both of you." The woman, Detective Ara Vance, whispered, "You shouldn't have found me." Jax leaned in. Then maybe God disagreed. By morning, she could speak. "My cover was blown," she said, eyes hollow. 8 months undercover with a trafficking ring called the Mountain Vipers. Drugs, guns, everything. Someone inside the department sold me out. Brenna's jaw tightened. "You mean someone with a badge? Higher than that," Ara said. "Lieutenant Marcus Sterling. My commanding officer." Jax's expression didn't change, but the air seemed to drop a few degrees. She told them everything. The ambush, the stolen phone, the buried evidence. "They think I'm dead," she whispered. "And when they realize I'm not, they'll come," Jax finished. "Then we'll be ready." They went back into the woods. Titan led them to the ambush site, limping but alert. He found shell casings, tape used on crates, and a scrap of burlap that reeked of chemicals. Evidence, proof, and a trail that led to an abandoned mine, the perfect hideout for men like the Vipers. Inside the cabin, later, Brenna spread her map on the table. Everything connects. The mine, the old service road, the warehouse. Sterling signed every permit. The silence that followed was heavy, unspoken agreement. The SEAL, the detective, the ranger. 3 strangers bound by the same war. They were done hiding. The storm broke, and so did the quiet. Titan growled first, a low rumble that made Jax's skin tighten. Then, the flicker of motion outside. "They found us," Jax whispered. He moved fast, stringing tripwires, setting improvised alarms. Seconds later, 6 armed men emerged from the tree line. Gunfire erupted. The cabin shook. Splinters flew. Jax returned fire with surgical precision. Every shot placed with the calm of a man who'd done this before. Ara, one arm in a sling, still fought like a cop possessed. Brenna held her ground, reloading and tending to Titan as he stood guard, wounded but defiant. Smoke grenades rolled through the snow, cutting visibility. When it cleared, one man was down, alive but captured. The rest retreated, leaving silence thick with gunpowder and victory. Inside, Jax stared at the prisoner, voice low and lethal. "Who sent you?" The man trembled, defiant, until Ara said the name. Sterling. That single word cracked him open. "Kane," he muttered finally. "Sterling works for a man named Kane. He runs everything." Ara's eyes darkened. "Then we end it." 2 nights later, under a sky stripped of stars, the canyon waited. A hollow stillness hung in the air, the kind that felt alive, listening. Cold crept through the stone, pooling in its depths like water in a cracked bowl, whispering across the sand and bone. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Only the low rumble of distant engines broke the silence, rising and fading like a ghostly heartbeat in the dark. Jax lay prone on a ridge of black rock, body low, face half hidden beneath the hood of his camo jacket. The chill bit at his cheek, but he didn't move. His rifle rested steady against the stone, the barrel glinting faintly in the moonless dark. He breathed slow, measured. 1 heartbeat, 1 breath, 1 shot. Through the night vision scope, the world burned green, surreal and alive, every shadow pulsing with meaning. Far below, 2 trucks crept into the canyon, headlights off, their movements cautious, deliberate. Tires crunched softly on gravel, echoing between the walls of rock like whispers in a tomb. When the engines died, men spilled out, shapes in motion, weapons glinting faintly as they fanned into formation. They moved with precision, not panic. Soldiers, trained, disciplined, efficient. This wasn't a smuggler's run. This was an operation. Jax adjusted the scope, breath catching when a familiar face emerged from the green haze. Marcus Sterling. The man who once wore a badge with pride, who swore to protect. Now, that same badge hung like a lie carved into his soul, gleaming faintly under the dim sky. Beside him stood another, taller, skeletal, his presence commanding without a word. Eyes like hollow mirrors, empty and endless. Kane. The ghost behind every whisper in Silver Ridge. The man who made nightmares move in daylight. The back doors of the trucks groaned open. 3 children climbed out, thin, trembling, faces pale beneath the cold glare of flashlights. Boys and girls, none older than 12. Their hands shook as they gripped duffel bags nearly as big as they were, backs bending under the weight. Jax's pulse hardened in his throat. He didn't need the scope to know what was inside. Not money, not food. Poison. Fentanyl bricks wrapped tight, packed for death's delivery. The children's faces told the rest. Fear. Obedience. The kind of silence that only comes from being broken. Jax's jaw clenched. This wasn't business. It was slavery, disguised as trade. Down in the canyon, Sterling barked orders, voice sharp, cracking under the weight of nerves. He double-checked his weapon, eyes darting like a man already haunted. Beside him, Kane stood still, arms crossed, watching him with the calm of a man who owned fear itself. When he spoke, his words were smooth, almost tender. Load the product. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. In Jax's ear, static hissed, then a whisper. Ara's voice. Soft, focused, deadly. Positions ready. Her brother Corbin followed, tone flat and steady. We do this clean. Jax's finger hovered beside the trigger, his eye never leaving the scope. On my mark, he murmured. The canyon went utterly still. Engines idled, men shifted. Even the night seemed to hold its breath. Now, Jax whispered. The world erupted in light. Floodlights blasted down from hidden ridges, slicing through the darkness with blinding white fury. Federal agents! Corbin's voice roared through a loudspeaker, echoing off the walls. Drop your weapons and step away from the trucks! For half a second, the canyon froze. Then chaos came alive. Kane's men spun toward the cliffs, shouting. Gunfire tore through the night, thunder trapped in a stone cage. Tracer rounds cut the darkness, streaks of fire weaving through the smoke. Jax exhaled once, then squeezed the trigger. One shot, one fall. He moved with precision, not rage, not haste. Every round he fired found its mark, his calm unbroken amidst the storm. Below, Ara advanced through the haze, one arm strapped tight to her chest, her pistol steady in her other hand. The floodlights caught her badge, flashing gold through the chaos. She was a storm, equal parts fury and faith, unshakable even as bullets screamed past. Sterling's composure shattered. Panic twisted his face. He grabbed one of the children, a tiny girl with tangled hair, dragging her in front of him, gun pressed against her head. Stay back, he roared, voice cracking. I'll kill her. His hands trembled. Sweat ran down his face, freezing in the cold. For the first time, the predator looked like prey. Kane didn't flinch. He just watched, eyes cold, calculating. Even monsters know when one of their own has broken. Then, a sound cut through everything. Deep, rolling, fierce. A bark. Titan. From the ridge, the German shepherd appeared, a phantom silhouette against the burning floodlights. Muscles coiled, eyes locked, he was a living weapon. Wind whipped through his fur as Brenner's voice rang out behind him, sharp, commanding, unshaken. Wind whipped through his fur as Brenner's voice rang out behind him. Sharp, commanding, unshakable. Now, Titan! Go! He moved. A streak of black and sable lightning tore through the air, leaping from the ridge and slamming into the ground below. Sterling turned too late. Titan hit him full force, knocking the gun from his hand, sending both of them crashing into the dust. The girl stumbled free, crying, sprinting toward Ara's arms. Ara caught her mid-run, pulling her close, whispering words that steadied her trembling frame. Sterling scrambled for the fallen pistol, desperation in his eyes. Then came the sharp crack of Jax's rifle. The bullet struck clean, spinning the weapon out of reach. Ara moved in. Pain flared through her injured shoulder, but she pushed past it. She tackled Sterling to the ground, pinning him with all the force of years spent fighting ghosts like him. One twist, one click. Cuffs locked tight. Final. Sterling glared up at her, face twisted in rage and disbelief. "You were supposed to die," he hissed. She leaned in close, eyes hard as glass. "You should have known better than to bury me in my own town." Kane turned, firing wildly as he ran toward the trucks, but Corbin's team closed in. The flashbang ignited the air, blinding light, deafening silence. When the smoke cleared, Kane was on the ground, pinned and cuffed. His empire had fallen, under floodlights and justice. And then, stillness. The gunfire faded. The echoes died. For the first time in years, the canyon was silent. Snow began to fall. Slow, soft flakes drifting through the smoke, settling on rock and ruin. Ara sank to her knees beside Titan, her hands trembling as she touched his fur. He was panting hard, chest rising and falling, his eyes dim but alive, a soldier's exhaustion. "You did it," she whispered, tears mixing with dust. "You saved her. Again." Titan's tail moved once, a single, tired thump against the frozen ground. Even heroes get weary. Jax lowered his rifle, scanning the horizon one last time. The dawn hadn't come yet, but somewhere beyond the canyon walls, the first light waited. Quiet. Patient. And for the first time, Silver Ridge could finally breathe again. Dawn crept slowly over Silver Ridge. A thin band of light broke through the clouds, spilling over the canyon walls, washing the battlefield in pale gold. Smoke still lingered, rising in lazy curls from the scorched gravel, mixing with the first breath of morning. Jack stood near the ridge, rifle slung over his shoulder, watching the horizon. The night had taken its toll. Dust streaked across his face, eyes hollow but calm. Below him, agents moved silently among the wreckage, collecting evidence, tending to the freed children, covering the fallen. It wasn't victory that filled the air. It was something quieter. Relief. Ara knelt beside Titan, running her fingers gently through his fur. He was still, save for the slow rise and fall of his chest. A patch of blood stained her sleeve, but she ignored it. "Easy, boy," she whispered. "You're going home." Titan's ear twitched, his gaze lifting to meet hers. For a moment, the world seemed to still. Just a soldier and her dog, both exhausted, both unbroken. Corbin approached, his jacket dusted white with falling snow. "Ambulance is en route," he said quietly. Ara nodded without looking up. "Tell them to bring oxygen." He earned it. A faint smile flickered on Corbin's face. So did you. Behind them, Agents led Kane away in cuffs, his expression blank, eyes empty, like a man who'd finally met something stronger than his fear. Sterling sat in the back of another vehicle, head bowed, hands trembling in steel. The same badge he once wore lay beside him in an evidence bag, tarnished, cracked, meaningless now. Brenner wrapped a thermal blanket around one of the rescued children, holding her close. The little girl stared at Titan, whispering softly, "He's not just a dog, is he?" Brenner smiled faintly. "No, he's family." The wind shifted, gentle this time, not cold, carrying the scent of pine and burnt gunpowder. The storm was over. The canyon, once filled with screams and shadows, was quiet again. Jax turned away from the ridge, his voice low but certain. "Let's go home." Ara rose slowly, Titan steadying beside her. Snowflakes drifted down, melting as they touched his fur. Together, they began the long walk toward the waiting trucks, the rising sun painting their path in gold. Behind them, the canyon held its silence, not the silence of fear, but of peace hard-won, and for the first time in years, Silver Ridge could breathe again.